Hello, thanks for joining a new video. This time I have a complete review of the HUAWEI Nova 13. Let's begin. This device is mid-range, but I think the price is a bit high. In Mexico it launched at 10,999 pesos, which is more or $535. But remember that prices here do not. They're the same as those over there. The advantage is it comes with 12 GB of RAM, which is impressive, and 256 GB of storage, also remarkable and available in the Huawei store too. They give great gifts like a Huawei watch, a GT, which I think is a remarkably advanced watch. They also give you a surprise package, accidental screen damage protection insurance, albeit with a duration of 3 months, although I believe that the complete combination is more appealing overall. You need to take that into account within this range. In terms of price, several competitors offer. Additionally, with advanced specifications, this device doesn't have an easy path ahead. However, as I mentioned, gifts can attract attention, particularly the front camera, which is great for taking photos, and it stands out. The rear camera is for photographs, but I'll tell you later. For now, remember not only it is available in the Huawei store, but also in other online stores and also in Liverpool. But consider that in the Huawei store is where they give you the gifts, although in other stores it might be slightly cheaper. But I think it would be worth buying it in the official Huawei store. In the description, I'll leave you the link in case you want to buy it there. Let's start talking about the design, where we will find something positive. In front there are nearly symmetrical bezels, giving it a modern look. It features a small circular camera cutout, but unfortunately it lacks Kunlun glass, Gorilla Glass or any special glass. So the glass's durability is uncertain. The sides have plastic frames with a shiny metallic appearance. On the right are the volume rocker and power button. There's something at the top. Microphone, the left side is spotless. Yet this perspective of profile shows its thickness, 6.698mm. It truly is an incredibly slim device, and this will certainly be one of its most attractive and strongest features. At the bottom we will find the tray that allows us to place 2 nano SIM cards. In addition, there's another microphone, a USB-C port, and several perforations for the main speaker. Now let's move to the back cover, where we will find a glass panel that gives it a nice feel to the touch. However, let's also mention that it makes it a slightly more delicate device. In this particular case, Huawei has come up with something they refer to as the dynamic plaid texture design. It actually looks quite appealing aesthetically. In fact, depending on the angle at which the light hits it, you'll see a different pattern. Overall, the design is consistently striking across the entire Nova series, and this model is no exception. Additionally, on the camera, you'll notice that it surrounds the Nova text, adding another distinctive touch in terms of design. Moreover, it weighs 195 grams, which is adequately balanced. Light, but it lacks good water resistance, which is a drawback because many devices are in various price ranges. Integrating water resistance is a feature. A point in its favor is the good range of colors available. The edition I am reviewing is the white one. However, it is also offered in black and green. In every case, the design is undoubtedly very nice. The screen measures 6.7 inches diagonally and provides us with a full HD resolution of 2412 by 1084 pixels. This means it offers a good level of detail, specifically at 394 pixels per inch, which means all the text will appear incredibly sharp. The screen provides us with AMOLED technology. This means that we will experience vibrant colors, high contrasts, and excellent viewing angles, just as we are accustomed to. In this price range, it's not surprising, as nearly all cell phones within this range feature very good screens. So this one is no letdown. It offers 2 color modes, one normal and one vivid. Although, to be honest, I do not notice differences that are as clear or as pronounced as in certain other devices. I believe that through the configuration process, we do not have quite as many parameters to handle to customize our preferred display, but not both. I consider it essential to note that this display can reach up to 120 Hz in its refresh rate. It also automatically adjusts between 60 and 120 Hz to balance battery consumption effectively. Furthermore, the touch sampling rate exceeds 300 Hz, providing excellent touch response during gaming. The screen's maximum brightness is sufficient for comfortably viewing all outdoor content, and it is also compatible with various types of content. HDR technology means it can produce much higher brightness levels in certain parts of the screen. It's actually quite interesting that Huawei has integrated artificial intelligence algorithms into this device, which can identify SDR scenes and convert them to HDR for enhanced viewing. Therefore, even if you're viewing images that might not originally have HDR quality, the device is capable of displaying them in a manner that significantly enhances their appearance, making them look much better than they originally were. The minimum brightness of this device is going to be quite comfortable. Even though it lacks an additional dimming option like some other devices, it features a dimming rate of 1440 Hz. This ensures that the perception of flicker, which might be generated in other devices, is not present in this cell phone. As a result, the user experience is relatively comfortable when using this device at night, providing a pleasant viewing experience. In fact, it also includes visual rest modes like dark mode and similar options, which allow for a more comfortable viewing experience. So overall, we could say that the device features a really excellent screen, although this is expected in this range. When it comes to sound, we have some bad news because it only has a single speaker, which is quite unacceptable for this price range. In fact, Huawei had already been making improvements by integrating stereo sound and maintaining good quality. Interestingly, in this model, the sound quality is quite poor. It fails to provide a good presence of bass or treble frequencies, which means that the middle frequencies stand out the most, resulting in a somewhat irritating sound. Moreover, we couldn't find an equalizer to attempt any improvements. Let's listen to a brief test, but do keep in mind that listening to it live is a different experience.
I'm just an accident with
En este caso,
In
no
this
vamos-
case, we won't find Dolby Atmos, just some Huawei sound effects, which work only with headphones. Similarly, you'll have access to an equalizer, but again, it's exclusive to headphone use, and well, there's no headphone jack, so we rely entirely on headphones, either wireless or through the USB-C port. For wireless headphones, it supports the LDAC codec, which is high quality, along with Huawei's own codec. LHC in case you want to enjoy audio in ultra-high resolution. So in that sense, if we are satisfied with the overall experience. Regarding the microphones, we are going to find two basic ones, one on the left side and one on the right side when you hold the device horizontally. Now, are we going to listen to a test? Will the voice pickup work effectively? Next, we'll analyze its performance in much noisier environments.
Cuidadosos.
Don't know why. Was it really what we had in mind? Running wild, losing time. Yeah, we're left here without love. We're on time, and time don't wait. We're headed, but we're lost already. We're on time, again and again. Falling, thinking that we're lost in the
As you might have noticed, the microphone does not create any distortion in environments with very high volume, so it would perform quite well at concerts or similar events. In this regard, the microphones meet expectations. However, the vibration motor is another aspect where this device disappoints, as it operates only on the Z-axis. At this price point, this is another section that tends to annoy, because the vibration will be quite simple, much like that of a cheaper device. In fact, that's precisely why, by default, the keyboard doesn't have the vibration feature activated. It's perceived as quite negative if you activate it, because when typing, you'll notice that the vibration it generates is excessively noticeable, which is quite unfortunate. The front camera on this device is remarkable, featuring 60 megapixels with an f2.4 aperture and autofocus, making it stand out significantly. It's positioned in a circular cutout at the center top, and as I've mentioned numerous times before, something that personally, my annoyance is that when you switch to the front camera, it automatically goes into portrait mode instead of switching to the regular photo mode. Therefore, it's really important that you pay close attention to whether the blur effect is on or off, because it could lead to some unexpected results. Fortunately, when it comes to photography, this camera is going to provide you with a lot of quality. The combination of a very wide camera with 60 megapixels definitely offers you a very good experience. It is important to note that in this instance, the photography does not appear overly agile regarding its animations. However, it manages to provide us with a satisfactory response in the end result. By the way, the photos are taken at 13 megapixels in automatic mode. Yet if you desire a 60 megapixel photo, you can switch to the high resolution mode, although it is generally advisable to keep it in automatic mode. This device also includes a feature where you can double tap the volume down button while the screen is off to access. It lets you access the camera quickly, but only if the screen is off, so it's not very useful. Also, it lacks the palm gesture, making capture less comfortable. You can control it by sound with a keyword or loud voice and capture by smiles, but these aren't very comfortable. The most convenient might be enabling the floating shutter in other areas. The floating shutter will show up in different parts of the screen, allowing you to press it more easily. A button appears at the top. Here is where we have the option to open and explore various color filters. We can preview simultaneously, and remember it has 3 zoom levels to use the sensor's high resolution. The front camera might be one of the strongest features of this device because of its excellent quality. It's important to note that it provides a high level of detail and impressive color rendition. Additionally, it offers various amplitude levels, allowing you to go up to 18mm, making it an exceptionally wide camera that provides plenty of space. For travel photography, I find it quite appealing. However, a potential drawback might be the aperture, which isn't particularly bright, yet even without that it's still... Possessing such a bright aperture is counterbalanced by the inclusion of a 60 megapixel sensor which merges the pixels to somehow capture more light. It is important to note that even when the pixels are merged, we still observe a very good level of detail, and in this specific case indoors, it continues to deliver satisfactory performance. In scenarios with backlighting, notice that the preview is not optimized very well, but pay attention to the fact that the result after processing the image is excellent, achieving a perfect balance. It's a really nice way to get the highlights and shadows without losing the natural look or contrast, so I truly like the result. At night, if you find yourself in front of a light source, you will experience a still positive outcome with a very good level of detail. Honestly, you won't notice that this device has a closed aperture, possibly due to the addition of the high resolution sensor. Therefore, it's a wide camera, but it's one that also performs really well at night. However, take into account that in much darker settings, it is going to suffer significantly and in a very intense way. The coloration becomes completely distorted, and even too many artifacts can appear in the darker areas. Therefore, it is definitely not advisable to take pictures in areas where there is insufficient light. If you use the night mode, it will fortunately improve the situation by avoiding all these types of distortions generated in the color and enhancing the result. And for portrait photography, note that at night it doesn't have as much detail as we would like. So it doesn't seem to be as much quality photography if you get close to see the details. But from far away, it could still be a positive result. However, in the daytime, we notice that although it has a very good level of detail, it's not able to detect objects correctly. So it's going to blur them out of focus, and in fact, the hair area itself could get complicated at times. I believe the front portrait photography isn't very advanced. On the back, we will find 2 cameras, beginning with the ultra-wide camera, a 16mm with f2.2 aperture and autofocus with an 8 megapixel sensor. Then we find the 27mm main camera with aperture f1.9 autofocus, a 50 megapixel sensor HUAWEI. What is remarkable is that Huawei incorporates a RGB sensor in a device of this price range, because usually these sensors use them in much more expensive devices. So you have a very good light capture, at least in theory. We'll take a moment and then we'll see the results. Now observe the speed of the response. From this camera, it seems to perform well for its price, with good capture. Holding the shutter allows a burst of up to 100 pictures. During our tests capturing number 3, we noticed the device anticipates the press moment, managing a small buffer, so timing isn't a big worry. However, the burst takes over half a second to initiate, and there is a noticeable delay between each photo, although it is fortunate that the burst is quite long. In this situation, unlike Huawei's premium devices, we do not have the Smash image modes, but we do have some color filters. These filters, however, are simpler and not as advanced. In the upper left corner, there is a button to enable the artificial intelligence, which is set by default, comes deactivated. If you tap on the screen, you can adjust the exposure or focus, but for more advanced parameters, you can access the professional mode. In this mode, we will be able to manipulate various settings such as the type of measurement and the ISO. The main camera can reach an ISO of up to 4,9600, which is one of the advantages of incorporating an RGB sensor. This feature can be highlighted as a strong point. Additionally, the exposure speed can go up to 30 seconds, and it also offers compensation, focus, and white balance adjustments. Additionally, it's important to note that if you're able to take pictures in RAW format for more advanced post-processing, we have excellent tools available for that. When it comes to the Smart Capture feature, it's worth mentioning that that it doesn't include a scanner directly within the automatic mode. However, you can open the document mode, and in this way you'll be able to take the picture. One feature I really appreciate is that you can even utilize the ultra-wide camera. So even if you don't have a lot of space to scan, it won't be an issue at all. Note that it automatically detects the sheet's edges and crops the picture. It only crops the picture without color optimizations, but you can adjust the crop if needed. The QR code scanner also doesn't work. In the main interface, open Aliens using the button in the bottom right corner one. Once we have access to this tool, we can start scanning QR codes. However, the process appears somewhat clumsy and slow, which is why I wouldn't recommend it too highly. Observe the result with the ultra-wide camera. Even in this scenario where we already see lights and shadows, we will find a good quality. In fact, it strikes me that though it does have chromatic aberration, it is not generated in excess as in some other devices, even in the same price range, so the ultra-wide camera meets a very good quality of photography. The main camera also has good quality, keeping the details well with virtually no distortions. I'm going to check if we can go to the edges with good contrast and take a look at the result that the crop provides us to achieve the 54 mm perspective. This is possible thanks to having a high-resolution sensor, and it appears to be optical quality. So, in short-range zoom, we have excellent quality. However, now notice that if we go to a medium-range zoom, like in this case with 4x, we could say that the quality up to this point is still acceptable. But observe that at 10x, the zoom is definitely not acceptable. I believe the quality is exceptionally high. However, when it comes to mid-range zoom, I find it lacking compared to other competitors. These competitors within this price range are beginning to include telephoto lenses as well. Now, if your preference is to zoom out instead of zooming in, you'll notice that in panoramic mode. The results are quite disappointing. The colors appear too pale, the contrast is low, and the level of detail is minimal. Overall, panoramic photography left me feeling really let down. Indoors, the ultra-wide camera is going to suffer to maintain the level of detail. Note that color saturation is even higher than reality, but it's not something that really bothers. What you do notice a lot is that there is little level of detail in the the main camera is going to be vastly improved in terms of the level of detail. Although interestingly, it removed the warm tone that existed in reality, so neither is as accurate in terms of color, but I think we can take that from them. Demand of more expensive devices. The truth of the matter is that the main camera performs well in indoor scenarios, even applying cropping inside the sensor. We see that it still maintains good quality, despite being in a scene without as much lighting as outdoors. In backlit scenarios, note that the preview is sufficiently well optimized, and the result will also be positive with any of the cameras, including the 54 mm crop. In all photos, it maintains a good light and shadow balance, so backlit shots aren't an issue, and results are positive. At night, there's a color difference. The ultra-wide camera shows a reddish hue, while the main camera leans yellowish. However, the ultra-wide camera's photo quality is notably good, as in the darker areas, there isn't an overwhelming amount of noise, and it still retains a respectable level of detail with good color saturation. Naturally, the main camera will provide us with significantly better quality regarding detail level, and it also manages to expose the brighter areas more effectively. Additionally, in the darker regions, we will still maintain a good image quality without an excessive amount of noise. In fact, when you switch to the night mode, you'll notice that the details will be significantly more elevated, and the darker areas will appear to be a bit better defined. Now, when it comes to macro photography, this is about as close as you can get using the main camera. Take note of how we experience a slight unevenness in focus due to the characteristics of the sensor and the lens. As a result, there will be certain areas that are in focus, while other areas may not be quite as focused. If we apply digital zoom with cropping on the 2x sensor, we'll notice that the image quality is remarkably good for this kind of macro photography. But the positive aspect is that this cell phone also includes a super macro mode using the ultra-wide camera, resulting in a super detailed photograph that is definitely very nice. And possibly a highlight, the device also integrates a high-resolution mode for the main camera, where it indeed gives us, as a result, a photo with a high degree of detail is essential to allow for cropping while still maintaining good image definition. Additionally, for scenes with movement, all cameras perform admirably. In this case, the testing was done outdoors, which is considered an environment conducive to this type of photography, making it easier for capturing such images. For portrait photography, it performs exceptionally well. Notice how with the 27 mm perspective, the effect is not as aggressive, yet it still looks appealing. With the 54 mm telephoto perspective, it captures a very high quality portrait, effectively detecting depth, applying a correct blur effect, and also maintaining excellent detail. Additionally, it offers an 81 mm perspective where the photograph appears even more professional, featuring a more pronounced bokeh effect, although it no longer has. I didn't like the level of detail because we're talking about digital zoom, but I really like the portrait photography. For video recording, a good news is that both the front camera, the ultra-wide camera, and the main camera can record in 4K at 30 frames per second. I think this is a good thing in the price range. It is not the only one with this feature, but there are also other devices in the same price range that do not offer 4K recording on the front camera, or similar types of things. If you want to record video at 60 frames per second, you must do it in full HD resolution. Only the main and front cameras can record in this quality. Keep in mind that with just a touch you can change these recording settings. However, if you find it a bit frustrating to keep tapping to change them one by one, you can still access the full configuration to adjust all these features more easily. It's important to note that you have the option to apply color filters to your video recordings. However, keep in mind that these filters are not compatible with 4K resolution. In fact, there's also a beauty mode available, but it shares the same limitation. When we start a video recording, you'll notice that we have the settings here for dynamic switching between cameras. Even with this advanced ring, we can take pictures, pause, and resume our recording. Additionally, be aware that it allows us to rotate to the front camera, which is a feature that typically just is available on Samsung devices. However, in this particular case, Huawei has also enabled it, which could be seen as a significant advantage since it's one of the rare devices offering this feature. Moreover, it allows you to turn on the flashlight without interrupting your video. Therefore, I believe that from an experiential perspective, the video recording capability is quite impressive. In fact, it's important to note that in professional mode, it even allows us to access the video recording to adjust all these settings even while recording video, we can adjust some manual settings. The main camera provides positive video quality outdoors, maintaining good detail, though slightly over-sharpened. It's still a positive recording experience. You can switch to the ultra-wide camera during recording for more range, but this camera isn't advanced, so the quality isn't as good. The camera, but even so, it can be in 4K. However, if we are going to notice a little more grain in the image, that gives us to understand that it will not be of high quality. Note that in this case, the zoom is going to be fluid between one camera and the other, which is positive in the price range. Although talking about the maximum zoom, we will notice that it does not offer too much sharpness. In fact, it is a relatively simple image quality. Maintains good stabilization, and in this case, the maximum zoom is 6x digital. In indoor scenarios, the ultra-wide camera tends to struggle more with noise control. You'll notice that the level of detail decreases and there's a bit of graininess. By switching to the main camera, this improves significantly. In both cases, they maintain a very similar coloration in these scenarios. For example, this was a warm scene and I believe they both preserve the colors well. The transition between one camera and the other when you press the button is quite abrupt, so it's recommended to slide the button to the left or right for a smoother transition. Zoom in carefully to avoid any abrupt changes. In scenarios with backlighting, it's important to note that using the ultra-wide camera will result in overexposure in the brightest areas. Therefore, it is best to record in environments with direct lighting rather than backlit settings when using this camera. This is particularly evident when the camera detects a face, and you might even notice some significant jumps in exposure at certain moments. So, paying attention to the lighting conditions is crucial to achieve the best results. When using the main camera, the behavior remains exactly the same. Therefore, it is advisable to record with the light coming from the front instead of from behind. At night, we will observe a very poor image quality, especially with the ultra-wide camera. In this regard, it becomes quite apparent that the device has more limited capabilities for video recording. Consequently, it wouldn't be recommended to record with this camera as the image quality is not satisfactory. It tends to overexpose the brightest areas while leaving the darker areas underexposed. Even the main camera will noticeably struggle when recording content at night, making it a device that is somewhat hesitant about nighttime video recording. The stabilization using the ultra-wide camera seems to be quite positive. As you walk, you won't notice any abrupt movements. Even while running, it might suffice depending on how well you can control the movements of your hand. Overall, it seems to have a good stabilization effect. With the main camera, a very similar thing occurs. If you manage the movements properly, I believe it performs well. Especially when walking, you can notice a camera of very good quality. However, when running, your movements will greatly influence the outcome. In general, it compensates well. Although for action scenes, I would definitely prefer using the ultra-wide camera. It's worth noting that the focus is positive in terms of its response speed and doesn't appear to have any hesitations or anything like that. Both in certain movements as well as in movements that are a bit more subtle. In this sense, it meets a good quality. This clip serves to show you a bit that the white balance might be slightly altered. Additionally, this device includes a back focus recording mode intended to blur the background, but as you can see, the result is quite poor. The outline of the subject is too noticeable, and there is no variation in the intensity of the blur, even when changing the distance. The camera is not able to keep the subject in focus, so the result looks very artificial. It also includes a fast camera mode, which is in 4K, which is good. But note that it has no stabilization and its most basic speed is 15x, which may be too fast in some environments. But for scenarios such as landscapes, we can get to have a speed of up to 1/800x, with which you could record even the growth of a plant, and the result definitely is advantageous in these types of applications where the device is placed on a stable base. In slow motion, you'll find HD quality that reaches up to 120 frames per second as the most basic option. However, the video you're currently watching can go up to 480 frames per second, which is the highest quality supported. Although in this super slow motion, you will observe that only a brief fragment of a second is slowed down, and you might notice some interpolated frames before it resumes normal speed. The front camera can also record in K, which is a positive feature. However, the coloration appears somewhat pale in scenarios with some backlight. In this instance, it's worth noting that it is a very wide camera. Although it allows you to apply cuts to zoom in, its performance in backlit scenarios is not favorable. It tends to overexpose the most illuminated areas in the background. Consequently, it does not provide a high image quality in such situations. It is attractive, even though it records in 4K. However, you will notice that it has a fixed focus when used indoors. This camera can struggle a bit due to its limited light input. Despite this, the result is still acceptable. But you will really notice the struggle during night recording. The darker areas come out quite poorly with noticeable color distortion and excessive noise, especially when there is more movement. Nevertheless, in photography, it still manages to perform well thanks to the capabilities of the camera. When it comes to the high-resolution sensor, the fact is that for video recording, it struggles significantly, meaning it is not the best choice for recording video with the front camera. Interestingly, this front camera also offers features such as the fast camera mode, which surprisingly appears to be stabilized and of good quality. Additionally, it includes a slow motion mode, which, while basic, can still be enjoyable at certain moments. We'll find HUAWEI version 14.2 in the software, as the OS but without policy. Regarding software updates, the future is somewhat uncertain. It's waiting for this phone. It has features at the software level, like widgets that are kind of hidden from inside some system applications. You have the ability to reveal them just by swiping upwards on the screen. We find a themes section to quickly change our customization. Device, also note that several of them include animations and transitions between the always-on display, the lock screen, and the unlocked screen, and indeed too. You can modify small drawings and similar items to customize. See, here's a catalog of color palettes and graphics. And we could also use other themes with emojis again, with a smooth transition between elements. When it comes to the level of customization, I believe we truly find one of its most significant strengths. Due to these capabilities, we can have a magazine-style section that scans the depth of your photos to extract you and alter the background. Alternatively, you can choose a more professional grid style depending on your preferred aesthetic. Overall, it provides us with excellent customization options and even grants access to additional themes through a store, where you can download both free and paid themes. As you may have noticed, if your device has the always-on display feature, some covers can even show animations, displaying the time and more information when your device is locked. These covers can feature analog or digital clocks or even your own phrases to customize your screen. If you use the themes, it will also show you, in a way, dim the background for a premium feel. If you dislike a single lock screen, it lets you change covers by category, so each unlock shows a new image. I don't like it, but it's available. You can choose to have an app drawer on the home screen. There's a senior mode that simplifies the interface, enlarges text and has gestures. For example, to activate one-handed mode, use a gesture that's tricky but reduces screen size properly, unlike other phones that only lower the top. Additionally, we have the option for multiple windows. Notice that in this scenario, we can shift from a full screen application to a floating window application. This is done simply by performing a gesture where you close the application but move it to a corner. By doing this, the application stays as a floating application, which we can resize and also position in different areas. An additional method to launch floating applications is by using the dock located in this sidebar. However, it's important to note that it only permits us to have one application open at a time in this floating format, which limits its advanced use. Thankfully, both Instagram and YouTube support this floating window mode. Moreover, as you can observe, there is also a bar where all the applications you currently have open will be displayed. Furthermore, besides transforming into a floating window, you have the option to switch into a split screen mode. This allows you to open and use two applications simultaneously. These applications can also have shortcuts while they are linked to the main screen, and they will remain linked in the recent application screen as well. Additionally, we will discover the Super Hub. By dragging content to this small sidebar, you can access the Super Hub, where a synchronized clipboard is available between all of our devices and applications. Huawei devices allow you to transfer images to other devices just by selecting the image you want. Additionally, it's worth mentioning that the Petal Clips editor is included. This video editor stands out because it doesn't add a watermark and offers a variety of options and tools for comfortable editing. This feature is noteworthy as many other manufacturers typically don't provide such advanced editors. Inside the gallery, we will discover the option to remove objects. However, it's important to note that this elimination process does not use generative artificial intelligence. Instead, it considers the surrounding area to attempt to fill the space. The detection capability is quite good, but there are instances where the filling might not be accurate. Nonetheless, a feature I really appreciate is the compare section. This feature is not present on many devices, and it enables you to select which photo you prefer the most, and after removing the faulty one, I believe all smartphones should have this tool. As for AI features, Huawei lacks advanced ones. It has a voice assistant but no generative AI. It handles basic commands like turning on the flashlight, adding alarms, reminders, or calendar events, but it can't answer questions. That everything will direct you to search for it in the web browser. Additionally, we discovered Alens, which besides recognizing QR codes, could assist you in translating certain signs, but of course, this requires an internet connection. Furthermore, we came across ATalk, which, by pressing 2 fingers on the screen, should assist you in searching for specific content. However, at this moment, it appears to be enabled solely for QR codes that are shown on the screen, so it doesn't seem very useful right now. We are also going to discover a section dedicated to smart reminders known as tips. At this moment, these tips can only alert you about high usage of your mobile data. Additionally, there is a search feature, which is an advanced search tool that enables you to locate applications or even other items directly from this main page. However, it's clear that when it comes to artificial intelligence, Huawei is somewhat limited regarding its native functions. Nevertheless, by installing third-party applications, you could potentially gain access to the following features. We have also observed various aspects associated with artificial intelligence, such as Copilot and other assistants. Imagine if we could use and install Gemini directly on this device to engage in conversations with the Google Assistant. Furthermore, there's a feature that could be incredibly appealing in this AI-powered device, which is the ability to swap faces. You can take multiple pictures when you're in a group photo, allowing you to later edit and select the photo that appears to be the best one. This feature truly enhances the experience of capturing group moments by providing flexibility in choosing the perfect shot. And take note that when entering retouching with artificial intelligence, you have the ability to select a better expression. In this instance, you can extract faces from other photographs to adjust them and replace them with the most suitable ones. Therefore, I believe it is a great option to choose the best faces. In terms of security, we will find an optical fingerprint reader that is suitable for this range. It unlocks effectively without any inconvenience, allows up to 5 records, and also gives you the option to change the animation at the time of unlocking and be able to recognize. We will also come across the option of facial recognition, though it is only in 2 dimensions, making it not as secure. Additionally, there will be the Smart Unlock feature, allowing the device to remain unlocked while connected to accessories such as your Huawei Watch, Huawei FreeBuds, and several others. It also comes with Huawei's Password Manager. However, passwords are stored only locally and do not have cloud syncing, meaning all your devices will. Huawei has synchronized the passwords for you. Additionally, it offers an application lock feature that uses your fingerprint or a different key than your lock screen. You can easily select which applications should require this second verification. It also includes the option of save files to securely store private items. Finally, it's important to mention that there's an option to locate your device if you happen to misplace it. So, even though it doesn't have Google services, it does come with its own set of features, implementations designed to provide you with a secure experience. Additionally, it offers the option to pin a screen if you plan to lend your cell phone. So, if someone suddenly asks to borrow your cell phone for a call, you can open the TV application and easily pin it by pressing this pin. This ensures that if they attempt to exit this app to access other areas, they won't be able to do so. And in fact, if they try to leave, they will be redirected straight to the lock screen. Additionally, it offers the twin application feature, allowing you to run 2 accounts of the same app on this phone. Moreover, it includes the private space option, which you can access as though it were a separate phone. In fact, you can set a different unlock pattern from your main one, and you'll notice that completely separate applications appear, just as if it were a different phone. This means you can dedicate one space for work-related items and another space for personal activities. And within the Optimizer application, it also includes a malware scan that works in collaboration with 360, ensuring you don't fall victim to attacks and similar threats. Additionally, it offers digital balance options, allowing you to set limits and monitor usage times. You can even manage your children's devices if they also have a Huawei cell phone. This feature lets you view a graph showing the time they spend on certain applications, and as I mentioned, you can establish usage schedules or limits for services and applications available on this device. You can block everything with a pin, which makes it useful for restricting the cell phone's use. Additionally, for emergency purposes, don't forget you can add your emergency contacts, medical information, or similar details. In fact, you can even add contacts to send an emergency message with your location by pressing the on-off button 5 times. The battery provides a capacity of 5,000 mAh as a figure. It matches what it offers. Most devices fall within this price range. However, it appears that the processor isn't really efficient, because during my test where I attempted to download as quickly as possible, the cell phone lasted about an hour less compared to the average smartphone. Therefore, I believe the battery might not be particularly remarkable during very intensive activities. Fortunately, when leaving the battery draining app running in the background while playing videos in the foreground, it showed significant improvements, so it seems that the software indeed has the capability to restrict the power usage of background activities. On a daily basis, I believe the autonomy will be excellent. In my testing, it lasted up to 8 hours and 26 minutes. However, I also observed that I frequently had to close an app that was heavily consuming power in the background. Therefore, while the autonomy is expected to be very good, there's a possibility that some applications might stop sending notifications. Luckily, the device lets you manually select priority applications that shouldn't be suspended. In short, heavy use drains the battery fast, but if you mostly use social networks, a camera occasionally, and similar activities, the battery performs well. It also has a traditional battery saver mode you can enable, demanding activities, and this should enhance the autonomy. Additionally, it features an emergency mode, let's say, which activates automatically. You can't enable it as a user, and it triggers when the battery reaches 1%. I believe it should at least allow the user to select the percentage, so perhaps at 5% it gets enabled. In this emergency mode, the options are limited, making it functional. However, I wish it could be activated manually. And concerning charging, it supports 100 watts, and honestly it charges quite effectively. Although it doesn't constantly maintain 100 watts, it's important to note that most of the time it operates at high power levels. And naturally, the power decreases as the battery level increases. However, in 15 minutes it regained 56%. In the test I conducted, in 30 minutes it was almost fully charged, completing the charge in 36 minutes. But remember, this is a 0 to 100 test, so ideally your charging sessions should be under 30 minutes. Without a doubt, this is one of the strongest features and highlights of this particular device. However, keep in mind that it lacks wireless charging capabilities. Unfortunately, it is equipped with algorithms designed to maintain the battery's durability over time. It includes smart charging options and a charging lock with a customizable limit, allowing you as the user to make decisions. Let's discuss connectivity, because once again we encounter some weak points, mainly due to the limitations present in terms of connectivity options. If you use technologies blocked by the US, then we do not find 5G, but only 4G, although today there is still not much difference between one and the other. But in the future, I think that difference could be much more noticeable. It does have a data blocking mode, so you can choose which applications can use your mobile data and which applications can only use Wi-Fi. In this case, it supports Wi-Fi 6 networks. So although it does not have such high download speeds in mobile data, at least in Wi-Fi, yes, what it also lacks is an eSIM, and that I believe is a more significant absence than the lack of 5 grams. When you travel, you'll have to buy a physical SIM card instead of just scanning a QR code, which would be far more convenient. It does come with Bluetooth 5.2 and NFC, but without Google Wallets, making mobile payments won't be as straightforward. You'll have to rely on your bank's apps or third-party applications, which makes that aspect more complex. Additionally, it can wirelessly project your screen, which is a plus. It hides notifications so they aren't visible on the large monitor. You can also play videos with the cell phone screen off. This makes it a more advanced projection than simple mirroring. However, it cannot project via cable. Even though it has a desktop mode, if you're projecting the screen wirelessly, you could still connect a wireless mouse and keyboard. Wireless to somehow function in a computer format to the browser, allowing you to use somewhat more complex applications. This means it has a lot of potential in this area. However, what it lacks by default is Android Auto, which is a significant drawback. Regarding the sensors, there's also a downside because it features a virtual proximity sensor that isn't very impressive. Fortunately, it does include sensors like the orientation sensor and geomagnetic field sensor, and the phone includes sensors like a gyroscope, an accelerometer and others. However, the proximity sensor is a letdown. Interestingly, it also has infrared, but it's located in the camera module area. This placement is somewhat unusual, yet it functions effectively. So, if you want to use your cell phone as a universal remote control, you can do so perfectly, which is definitely a positive aspect. Now let's discuss the ecosystem, an area where Huawei typically excels. To begin with, it offers a wide range of accessories such as the Huawei FreeBuds, featuring a broad range of prices and styles, and also the Huawei Watch, which comes with a wide variety of prices and styles. In fact, there's also the Huawei Band, and don't forget about the Huawei MateBook, which are actually laptops as well as desktop computers. In the tablet section, there's the Mi Pad. The number of accessories is quite extensive and they offer a very advanced level of interaction. The accessories are recognized quickly, allowing you to take pictures from the Huawei Watch, and you have synchronized alarms. You can also use these tablets as external computer monitors. You can send files to the computer with Huawei Share or simply by bringing the cell phone close to the trackpad. Then, the interaction and the ecosystem become really very complete. This is one of the strongest points of Huawei, at least in terms of its own ecosystem. However, it obviously still has some shortcomings in areas where Huawei needs to further develop its ecosystem, such as in services. For example, the application used to control home devices is called AI Live. However, it doesn't come pre-installed and its compatibility is limited to devices using Huawei technologies. Additionally, there's the App Gallery as its App Store, which is considerably smaller compared to the Google Play Store. Don't forget though that I've included a link in the description where you can find instructions on installing Google Apps. Moreover, if you choose to install alternative applications like Aurora, that option is available as well. You see, with the App Store, you have the opportunity to compensate for this deficiency, let's say, in having a broader and more extensive catalog of applications. Therefore, as things stand today, Huawei boasts a really robust and strong ecosystem of devices. However, when it comes to the level of services, it unfortunately falls short and doesn't quite meet expectations. And who remembers without Google? It's not a personal choice, but due to its restrictions. Hopefully, they'll develop it so we can use Huawei Wallet for payments, but that's not available yet. What is available is Huawei Cloud, offering storage with various plans, whether you prefer the free option or a paid one. Let's proceed to discuss performance, and we will conduct our customary app opening test. This particular device features a Kirin 800 processor, which was designed by Huawei, utilizing a 7nm process. Although it is a relatively new processor, it is not the most advanced in terms of its construction process, mainly because of the numerous limitations that Huawei is currently facing. However, it will be quite interesting to observe its performance, and in this specific instance, it took around 2 days to open each application. I would definitely say that we are witnessing an exceptionally good performance, especially when you consider its price range. This processor seems to be one that does not disappoint. Observe in this scenario how it performs when browsing through various pages or using different applications. I believe it responds quite well, and it doesn't appear to freeze at any moment. Moreover, in this situation, we are not experiencing full application restarts yet, although we are going to take a look at that shortly. This device is equipped with 12 GB of RAM, which means it should handle tasks efficiently. As you can see, we're not experiencing any reboots or freezes with the device. Therefore, I believe that if the RAM is being used effectively, it will be a significant advantage for the cell phone. The RAM management combined with the ample capacity it offers is a strong point. Furthermore, the storage is also a remarkable feature, as it provides 512 GB, which is quite impressive for this price range. In fact, it's quite unusual, although you can't insert a micro SD card. However, if you want additional storage, you have the option to sign up for Huawei Cloud. Now, let's test and see how it performs with read and write speeds. You'll notice that when it comes to read speeds, there are certain peaks where it surpasses 1000 megabytes per second. But generally, it tends to stay below that speed. On the other hand, in terms of reading, it often exceeds 400 megabytes per second most of the time, which is something that's very remarkable. So when it comes to reading, it is not extremely fast, but in writing, it appears to bring quite a surprise. Now let's conduct a test by exporting a video using the Petal Clips application. In this instance, it will be in 4K. Remember, we are using clips recorded with this cell phone, which together have a total duration of 1 minute. And once ready, it took approximately 43 seconds. I believe it is not the most advanced option we have found in terms of power, but considering all the limitations it has, Huawei has achieved remarkable things so far. For a significant percentage of users, the devices will provide enough power. However, the most demanding users might find something more powerful in this same price range. When it comes to gaming, it's important to note that there isn't any advanced manager available. There's an application labeled as the Game Center, but it actually redirects you to install other content from the stores, which typically consists of simple games without much complexity, although each increasingly advanced games are being added to the Huawei App Store. Essentially, it serves as a direct route to the store. While you can access the games you've installed through the library, it doesn't provide advanced management options for performance profiles or anything similar. Within the battery settings, there's a maximum performance mode available. However, since this mode is activated separately from the games, we conducted our tests without enabling it. In Call of Duty, by default, this device provides us with very high graphic quality at a very high frame rate. But we can also increase it to the maximum rate without sacrificing graphic quality, which is a positive aspect. In fact, it is notable that even though it is a Kirin, it is compatible with the vast majority of effects simultaneously. This speaks well of the development Huawei has achieved with this processor and its graphic configuration. The resulting experience is truly positive and impressive. It's worth mentioning that the screen recording appears smooth, and even during recording, the screen didn't heat up much. The game performs well with impressive graphics without noticeable frame drops, enhancing the experience positively. In the Legends game, we switched from automatic to medium quality at 60 frames per second to test its performance relative to its price, and interestingly, in this case, it made an attempt to reach 120 frames per second and managed to maintain a stable performance at 120 frames per second, which is unlike other devices that experience a lot of instability during such attempts. This makes it quite surprising that this Kirin processor can perform so well under these conditions. For the mid-range, I believe these Kirin processors are quite astonishing, even though it didn't consistently hold 120 frames per second at all times. There was a moment when it dropped to 60, but then it was able to stabilize again. Very stable with excellent temperature control, so the performance has been completely positive. Next, we tried Arena Breakout, setting it to HDR HD graphics at a low rate. If you want a higher frame rate, you'll need to lower the graphics quality, depending on your preference. Note that this game doesn't feel as smooth at 30 frames per second, but the graphical detail is impressive. However, within this price range, I believe we could expect a bit better optimization, particularly considering the level of fluidity it can achieve. In fact, take a look at this other recording and notice how it appears when we increase the frames per second rate by reducing the graphic quality. It's clear that the gaming experience seems significantly more enjoyable. And finally, we tried playing PUBG. In this scenario, the default setting provides us with HD quality at a high frame rate, and take note that we were able to increase it to HDR. The graphics quality is excellent. In fact, if you lower the graphics quality, you can achieve an extreme rate. However, for testing purposes, we opted for HDR with an ultra rate. Once again, we can say that the experience was perfect. And you'll notice very good stability and excellent temperature control. In this case, the gaming experience is positive as well. Remember that while recording the screen, we measure the temperature and it doesn't become excessively high. This ensures that the gaming experience in terms of performance is maintained. The overall experience is going to be very positive, I assure you. However, do keep in mind that installing the games might be a bit more complex for some individuals than setting up the account. Additionally, recovering progress in Google Games could pose a challenge, and there might be some content that doesn't run properly. Therefore, it is crucial to check if your favorite games can indeed be installed and function smoothly before making a purchase. Despite these potential issues, I must emphasize that the experience has been overwhelmingly positive. To sum up, this device truly stands out, particularly with its front camera, which boasts a 60 megapixel resolution. Typically, Huawei includes very wide cameras that have a somewhat narrow aperture, which don't perform well at night. However, in this instance, it is enhanced by featuring a high-resolution sensor. As a result, even nighttime photography reaches a very high level of quality. Nonetheless, while the photography aspect is impressive, the video capability isn't as appealing. In fact, the rear cameras actually perform quite well at the photography level. Of course, it also stands out significantly in style, primarily due to the design of the back cover, which is notably thin. However, it has some important shortcomings, such as the lack of water resistance. Additionally, we would have liked to see Kunlun glass in this model. It also lacks stereo sound, which is a notable absence. So overall, I think there are several points that negatively impact its overall performance. And speaking of performance, oddly enough, the performance, even though Huawei doesn't have access to modern components, was pretty good. But I think it wouldn't be so recommended to buy it, especially at the launch price range. Maybe if you find it with a promotion, or in the case of acquiring it in the Huawei store, if it is complemented with a gift of a high price, it could be more attractive. At this moment, we have arrived at the conclusion of this video. If you enjoyed it, remember you can let us know, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care.